Hello, and welcome to another weekly dose of higher wisdom.
Or just our rambling.
Well, today we will be rambling about human metamorphosis and how this human metamorphosis is a gateway to ascension.
And as usual, folks, you always know when we do these, we end up with technical issues. So please bear with us.
If you can hear us or not, if you can't hear us, please let us know. We were having some microphone issues, but it seems that it's working now. But in case you can't hear us, let us know.
Yolanda, could you let us know if you can hear us, please, darling?
That's from that. Well, hopefully you can hear us. We'll wait for Yolanda to confirm yes. But we want to dive deep into this human metamorphosis topic.
Well, let's hold on. If in case they don't hear us, it doesn't make sense we keep talking.
Yes, they can hear.
Okay,
so
perfect.
We're good. So this human metamorphosis that we are undergoing, as you may or may not know, we are in the middle of this timeline split, and it's called numerous different things and numerous different communities, but basically it is a shift in frequency. It's a split between the third dimensional reality and the fifth dimensional reality. And the only difference between those two dimensions is what? Frequency.
But even so, before we go deeper, let's step back into our 3D reality that we live in. Even before shifting between a third dimensional reality, which is what we experience on a day-to-day basis, or a metaphysical reality, call it 5D, call it Treta Yoga, call it Ascension, whatever it is, within the 3D construct, without getting into the spiritual concept, all we have to do is open our eyes to see that we are even in the 3D world going through a split. We're hearing it, but we're not really paying attention to it. We're hearing there's a split between the East and the West, the Western G7 countries, and what's now emerging as the BRICS. And as a matter of fact, I was telling you this morning, 23 new countries as of this morning has formally applied to join BRICS. That puts the total GDP of the world in favor of the BRICS. It also puts the total amount of world population in favor of the BRICS.
It's a shift of power.
It's happened. It's
absolutely happened. And even if that's just in the 3D world, there is still a natural split that is occurring. Countries are waking up, and this is where I always reflect the micro and the macro. Countries are waking up and they're taking back their power from the West, who's been in power, and they're realizing, wait, why haven't we had a voice? Why haven't we had a say? Why have we
been poor? Why have the resources been taken from us?
So they're reclaiming their power by saying no and choosing another option that has been presented. And this is mirrored in every reality, every area of life, whether it's politically, financially. Look, there's Bitcoin and all of these different financial.
Well, there's the fiat currency as it stands today, where people are walking away from the fiat currency and moving more into a gold-backed currency, which is what we were back before 1970. Now, having said that, 3D world being split, geopolitically, financially, we are also going through a split in what's happening to Mother Earth, the planet itself. So again, before we get into the spiritual side, I'm just trying to highlight to you, and again, folks, we forgot to mention to you
our disclaimers.
Listen, we are going to, this is just how we communicate.
We're going to trigger you.
We're going to trigger you. We are going to talk over each other. This is how we communicate. The things we say are our opinion. It is based on our observation. It doesn't have to be your truth. We're not asking you to believe our truth. This is just our observation of what we are seeing and experiencing in the world.
And if we can guide you in opening your eyes and seeing that, wow, yeah, I didn't see that before. That is truth. That is an illusion that I'm living in that is keeping me stuck. This is part of the healing journey, is to be able to see the illusions we're living in, including in this 3D reality. A lot of what we are talking about is part of the false systems that we've become dependent on, that we've given our power to, that is falling away, which is what precedes and gives into this split
And
on all levels.
we are also, like we did last week, we are also going to mention the observation that we have experienced and we have observed even in the medicine world. So again, if this triggers you, if you think that these people are egotistical, they think they know it all.
I'll
Again,
invite you to go back into your body, feel the wound that's
we-
being poked, because
we are
that's what triggers are.
simply expressing what we have observed, being in the medicine world, living in Latin America for 10 years, getting to see the insights of these shamans and medicine servers. So we give a different perspective based on what we observe. Now, having said that, that's a quick disclaimer. Moving forward, going back to what's happening in our planet. So we talked about the geopolitical and we also talked about the financial briefly. On the planet itself, if we look around, we see that there's, as of yesterday, there was 72 volcanoes active on Mother Earth right now.
Mm-hmm.
At least a half a dozen of them are super volcanoes. So there is something going on with the planet. We've never seen so many active volcanoes. We've never seen so much earthquake swarms, especially around those volcanoes. The one that Shelley and I keep an eye out is the one in Campe Flegrei, which is probably the biggest one to keep your eyes out for. But also Yellowstone is starting to act
Absolutely.
up. And there is more earthquakes all along the San Andreas Fault, all the way down to Chile and Peru. So there is something going on with the planet itself.
That's this metamorphosis. She's going through the same metamorphosis that our physical bodies are going through. Again, macro, micro, and I'm going to reflect that here in a little bit once you...
No, I'm done.
You're done? Okay,
I'm done.
perfect. So what's going on when we look at, coming back to solar flares, this is where we're going to begin this conversation, which we have an entire another live video, a replay that you can watch to truly understand what solar flares are, what they are facilitating for us at a physical, mental, emotional, and energetic level.
And how they affect your body.
And how they are an advantage right now for your spiritual journey. Because let's be real, isn't our sole purpose to reconnect with our divinity?
Absolutely.
To remember who we are, to evolve spiritually into our higher consciousness? Is that not what we are here for?
At least I am. I can't speak for anybody else.
When we guide you down this spiritual journey now, if this is the next trigger disclaimer, if anything spiritual has been, deemed as too hairy-fairy or to this or to that or da-da-da-da-da, this is just another way that prevents you from remembering that your sole purpose here is for spirituality, because there's a lot of resistance to, I don't want that spiritual stuff. But we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Well, we seem to forget that. We are human beings. We are being human. And as being human, we are spiritual. So we can't say that, even when we say things like Shiva and Shakti, there is no religious connotation to it. Shiva simply means the masculine in us, and Shakti means the physical body, the feminine in us. So mind and body.
Because just as we have reflected, and in somatophobia, I give the two different versions of, here is what religion has told you, here's what Hinduism has told you about Shiva and Shakti, here's the feminine interpretation, just like with Jesus and Santa Claus. The feminine interpretation always brings you back to within yourself, which is where you are going to find your divinity, your god and goddess, your everything that you've been looking for. So now that the spiritual trigger disclaimer is out of the way, on this journey of being a human, we are undergoing, especially right now at this time, thanks to the solar flares, we are undergoing a human metamorphosis, and all life forms on this planet are undergoing the same metamorphosis. Just like a butterfly doesn't become a butterfly without undergoing a metamorphosis, or diamonds or grapes don't become wine. And what does that metamorphosis include?
Piezoelectric
pressure. We literally, with these solar flares, our bodies are under a lot of pressure. And while that pressure can be deemed a bad thing because it's bringing up a lot of pain and symptoms and emotions and this and that, all the stuff that you've rejected, not wanted to see, hear, feel, look at, all of the parts of you that are your quote unquote shadow aspects, the parts of you that you don't embrace, the parts of you that you judge or shame. So this journey that we are currently on, regardless of whether or not you are on a healing journey, regardless of whether or not you are on a spiritual journey, your body is undergoing this process because every life form on the planet is at the effect of these solar flares.
And again, folks, don't take our word for it. Science proves this today. If you go and you do any research on the solar flares, you will hear them keep telling you that the scientists have now come out and admitted that the soul, because the ionosphere is so thin, go back and watch that video. We're not going to rehash the whole thing. Our bodies are being subjected to these high frequencies coming at us. And it is going to affect our emotion. It is going to affect our B vitamins in our bodies. It's going to affect what's going on in our head. It's going to affect our health. So it is affecting us, and depending on the layer of work and how deep you're going, again, traveling within the body, not traveling within the mind. If you're going into the body and unraveling the trauma stored in your fascia, which is where all trauma is stored, during these solar flares, we are getting an opportunity to literally either take a beating from the solar flare or use it so that we can jump into our higher consciousness.
And you just said the magic word.
Jump.
Jump. Because that's exactly what this ascension, this timeline split, this window of opportunity that we have with these solar flares, we literally have an opportunity to jump from a lower frequency dimension into a higher frequency dimension. Because if we look at it, and again, science can prove all of this, every dimension that has been quote unquote proven exists right here, right now. The only reason we cannot perceive another dimension that exists right here, right now, is because our senses, our feeling presence, our life force energy, our Shakti is deficient. She is depleted, which means we can only see, smell, taste, hear, feel.
Less than 5%.
Tiny little bit. So, of course, we can't see physically or hear physically other dimensions, but they're right here.
I hear something on the roof running around all the time, but that's just me.
And it's got 2 legs and it runs really loud. Yeah.
So you're going to read something?
Yes. So I want to share with you some passages from Somatophobia about this human metamorphosis. And I'll invite you as you're listening to mirror that the ascension pains and symptoms that are arising, the emotions, the triggers, everything that's getting amplified, that's of a lower frequency with these solar flares, mirror that over to the macro. All of the, how many? 72?
72 different volcanoes.
Again, Mother Earth is under a lot of pressure. So why do you think there's 72 volcanoes erupting? She's literally releasing pressure the same way we release pressure with emotional outbursts or triggers or tears or anger, whatever it is that shows up, or just pain or symptoms.
Look at the pain I was in last week.
Absolutely.
Literally could not, almost couldn't walk. And we do between 3 to 5 hours of work every single day. So it's just a ton of pressure that's being put onto Mother Earth, that pressure is also being put onto the planet. So that's why you're seeing the earthquake swarms. That's why you're seeing the volcanoes becoming active. The crazy weather that we're having.
Exactly. So the crazy weather mirrors our crazy pains and symptoms, micro, macro. So all life forms exist because of their structure. Your body exists because of its molecular structure. Your mind exists because of its molecular structure. And a structure is nothing more than energetic molecules that have slowed down in vibration and come together to manifest in form. Over time, structures that are not nurtured and properly cared for begin to weaken, develop cracks, and deteriorate. Over the course of your life, the structure of your body weakens. Loss of muscle tone, strength, bone density, flexibility, elasticity, and energy are signs of your body's structure weakening. Incontinence says it all. Weak pelvic floor. Pelvic floor is the foundation of your structure. Dementia, lack of mental focus and clarity, slower processing speeds, mental fatigue, and decreased sharpness are signs of your mind's structure weakening. A closed mind is a mind that is infected with limitations, skepticism, doubts, and fear, all of which make the mind weak. And shall I mention a lack of common sense as well?
Common sense is uncommonly not common.
The molecules that create the structure of your body and mind are held in place through vibrational frequencies, and these molecules can change their form by changing the vibrational frequencies. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it is transformed. Increasing the vibrational frequencies instigates the transformation of energy. Energetic molecules that are stuck together are not moving, hence why all traumas stored in the fascia are nothing more than stuck energies. They're not moving. Increase the vibration and watch them begin to vibrate and then move, and before you know it, they're bouncing off of one another. And the structure no longer appears like it once did. It's taken on a new form. And this metamorphosis, when we look at the word metamorphosis, it literally is a transformation. Caterpillar transforms into a
Butterfly.
We transform from a carbon-based body, which our template of our body is carbon molecules, and we are returning back to a crystalline template. Well, what is our fascia?
Crystal, liquid crystal.
It's a liquid crystalline matrix.
That has been hardened.
So let's just look at the metamorphosis that can occur when we relieve the amount of pressure that already exists within our body, not to mention the incoming pressure from the solar storms, which the other day, the speed it was incoming at was how much?
I was going to say to you, before we get into the pressure that's already in the body, let's talk about the pressure that they're literally feeling coming. So every time there's a CME, a coronal mass injection, or a solar storm coming in, if it's a M class or an X class, what's happening is that solar wind is coming to the earth, especially if the CMEs or the solar flash happens when that particular group is earth facing. It's traveling anywhere between about 150 to 600 or 700 kilometers per second. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever been on a fast vehicle or motorcycle. I used to race crotch rockets.
I remember that.
My biggest bike was a 1400 Ninja, and that thing was capable of getting up to speeds of 180 to 200 miles per hour. And I can tell you, after racing on a bike like that at 150 miles an hour, the pressure that you feel on your body, and that's only 150 miles
an
hour. These solar storms that are coming in hundreds of kilometers per second. So imagine that coming at us, and it's coming through the ionosphere. When you ride a motorcycle, and this has happened to me before, if you get hit by a bee at 150 miles an hour, it literally feels like somebody shot you on the forehead and your helmet pulls back.
Whiplash.
It's literally that how powerful it is, traveling at 150 miles an hour. Much less these solar storms. One came in a few days ago, it was 650 kilometers per second. That is a phenomenal amount of pressure on the human body. That's why that day I could barely walk.
Well, it was your sacred secretion too.
On
I
top of that-
watched your pain body just
But it was,
flow in.
I mean, I didn't do anything that should have made me feel that way. I didn't lift.
Absolutely.
I didn't, it was a relatively normal practice that we had in the morning.
Yeah.
And I just, during the day, just went lower and lower
Into
to the
pain.
point by the time we got into our evening practice, I could barely walk. So that's
and then
how much
after the
pressure coming.
practice, you actually were able to walk even better. That's the purpose of this daily practice and the death rebirth, because what we are experiencing at this grand scale, this incoming pressure, we are undergoing a death rebirth as is. So when you commit to a daily practice and remember how to awaken your life force and heal yourself and transmute these stuck energies in your body, which now allow me to share with you the amount of pressure that your body is already under. When you commit to a daily practice, you will then be able to alleviate this pressure that I'm about to share with you that you're already under, so that incoming pressure from the solar storms is not as painful, not as intense. So if you were to take 1 square inch of your fascia that is restricted and weigh the amount of pressure that restricted fascia is putting on your blood vessels, your lymphatic vessels, your nadis, which are your energetic pathways through which your vital life force energy flows. 2,000 pounds of pressure per 1 square inch of distracted, distorted, restricted, stuck fascia. Now, what creates your fascia being stuck or restricted? Those stuck energies that have stopped moving. So pain is nothing more than energy.
Well, pain is energy that's just stuck in the body.
Exactly. So imagine that your fascia, which is this saran wrap like connective tissue covering your body from head to toe, it's elastic, it's fluid, it's liquid, its name itself, liquid crystalline matrix. It's liquid, which means it's fluid, except it is the sacred record keeper of every memory of your soul. And those memories that are painful, that are unintegrated, that are not healed, not just from this life, but your ancestors' lives, past lives, other incarnations in other parts of the universe, all of those memories are stored in this fascia of your current body, this physical body right here, right now. So now all of those memories are what create distortions in the fascia because it's liquid. So if there are memories of guilt, of sadness, of anger, rage, frustration, all we have to do is look at Dr. Emoto's frozen water crystal experiment. Lower frequency emotions distort the water molecules. So not only is your fascia a liquid crystalline matrix, the body is 70 to 80% water. So all of those stuck energies from unhealed traumas, unhealed memories have now distorted the molecular structure of your body and of your fascia.
The words that we use, the thoughts that we think.
Judgment.
It all contributes to that liquid crystal body.
And that is our physical structure. So if our physical structure is just like blobs, there's no geometry, there's no sacredness or beauty in it, it just looks ugly.
Yeah.
Then that's what we are doing to our bodies by not choosing to heal these stuck energies in our fascia that create 2,000 pounds of pressure per 1 square inch. An average horse weighs 1,000 pounds.
So that's like, so what you're telling me is that, for example, my right hip bothers me. And I can feel a huge area on my right hip. So what you're saying is that on 1 inch of that area, that's 2,000 pounds.
2,000 pounds of pressure. And science has proven this. It's in my book.
So you're telling me that and 1 square inch, this big,
1 square inch
is equivalent to 2 horses standing on me on that 1 square inch.
Yep.
So that area that I feel, whether it's my whole back or my entire right hip, that is like this much pain. So how many horses are standing on that pressure?
Well, I calculated the whole human body, and it's between 4,000 to 5,000 horses standing on our entire body from head to toe.
So when we get into accident, which I have gotten into quite a few, and our bodies are whiplashed, and we feel the pain, every movement we feel, neck, head, back, chest, hips, knee. We feel like we use the term, we feel like we've been run over by a truck, which I have. So that is how many horses standing on my body?
Your entire body, anywhere between 4,000 to 5,000. I have the exact number, not right now off the top of my head.
But it's in the book.
It is in the book, and I'll make a post about it. It's been a while since I posted about it, but that's a lot of pressure that we're living under. And this is why when I started creating womb kriyas and using resistance bands, that pressure feels like a straitjacket. But now if we go back and look at where we started this conversation, that our feeling presence, our physical feeling senses,
less than 5%.
Why are they so limited? Because we're already under so much pressure. So now add the 4,000 to 5,000 horses that are standing on your entire body because your fascia, which is supposed to be liquid and fluid, is stuck and restricted. Now you have 600 kilometer per second forces and pressure coming in from the solar wind. Wow, we're under so much pressure. We're ticking time bombs.
Now, having said that, pressure can be a good thing.
Exactly.
Pressure can be, look, your pineal gland, and again, everything that we talk about when we did this book, all science research was done on it. We went back.
It's quoted in the book if you need it.
We went back and we studied the Vedas, which wrote about this over 5,000 years ago. We looked at the Gnostic text, the Hermetic text. All of this have been recorded. The reality of it is this. Our pineal gland, which some people refer to it as our third eye.
It's a liquid crystal.
It is crystallized. Science proves it today. It is miniature crystals that make up that pineal gland. And the way to turn on those crystals is to add what, love?
Pressure.
And what's the pressure called?
Piezoelectric
current is required. So just like Shelley alluded to, imagine that there is a huge diamond here made up of thousands and thousands of other smaller diamonds. How is diamond created?
Under pressure.
Maximum amount of pressure from the earth creates this beautiful hardened stone that is so expensive today that we call diamonds. Well, we have one right here. And the way to turn that on is to be able to apply pressure onto it. Maybe not as crazy as we do, but adding pressure to it turns on the pineal gland or opens up your third eye.
Exactly. So I'm going to share this next little passage and then we will continue on, because diamonds would not be diamonds without undergoing an increase in pressure. Wine would not exist without grapes undergoing pressure. And Mother Earth's body wouldn't have all the beautiful and majestic landscapes that she has to offer without experiencing a metamorphosis achieved through volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. So your body undergoes an increase in pressure during breath holds and contractions of your pelvic floor, two things that we guide people through in our womb and hara kriya ceremonies.
What do you call it again in chiropractic? A cranial pump.
Craniosacral pump.
Cranium, sacral, so pelvic, brain, pump.
A pump. To pump, we have to pump our life force energy, our Shakti, up, because we don't have an actual pump that naturally pumps it up for us. And the craniosacral pump in most people is stuck. It's not active. It's not turned on.
We don't even know how to pump it.
So that vital life, and we're not even dropping into where our vital life force energy reservoir is located in our body, in our womb, or for men, in the hara. That is the reservoir of your life force energy, the power that made the body, which is the same power that can heal the body. But for it to heal the body, what does it have to do, my love? It has to rise the spine, thanks to that craniosacral pump. But if it's not active, if it's not functional, if it's stuck, if your spine is restricted, if you're not waking up your vital life force energy to flow up,
if we are afraid to go into the body,
vital life force energy is not waking up. We're literally running on empty, calling it being alive.
Calling it healing even. Because a lot of times, and we talked about this before, even in the medicine world, even in the spiritual world, everybody's journeying from here, not from
the
here, going into the body where all trauma is stored. This, and like you say it always, you have to descend before you can ascend.
Well, and like you gave me the analogy, a guy who does the pole jump, he has to squat down
before he jumps.
He jumps because he's going to jump higher if he squats down to get that force. So if you have been in a ceremony with us, if you've done breath work, you may know what I'm talking about here. But let's say you inhale and you hold your breath. Upon releasing your breath, or let's say you're squeezing your pelvic floor right now. Upon releasing that pelvic floor contraction, you're going to feel a release of energy. And this is your old structure breaking down. As it breaks down and stuck vibrational frequencies dissolve, energies start moving, a vortex of energy swirls through your body, gaining in speed as it picks up energy from these dissipating molecules that were once stuck together. Your life force quotient increases as this energy is extracted from your body and moves towards your spine. Shakti, or life force, will begin to rise through your spine until she encounters a blockage. And when she encounters that blockage, you can use one of the many life force activators to break through the blockage, allowing Shakti, or your life force, to rise higher and higher. Eventually, the life force will make it to your brain, and this is how you let your old form die and rebirth your new form, your higher self.
And really quick, you will hear us talk about Shakti activators. We do actually offer a course that you do it once a month or once every couple of months.
The next somatic cannabis trauma healing ceremony is Sunday, January 19th, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern.
So in that, you will learn what these activators
There are 7 of them.
And how to turn them on so that you can wake up the life force energy. Anyway, go ahead, Anne.
So once you remember how to rise your life force energy up to your brain, and I shared this in my Telegram channel yesterday, that how we do sex today, where we are literally expelling our sexual energy, which is our vital life force energy.
Prana, life force. It's called chi.
We need that energy. It's so powerful that it literally creates life forms. It creates a baby. So what do you think might happen if we were to reserve and retain that life force energy that can be used to give birth to a baby? What do you think will happen if we can actually channel it all the way up to our brain?
And again, don't take our word for it. We are just recounting what we remember, but what we've also seen in research. This is yogic teaching. This is Gnostic teaching. This is Hermetic teaching. This is monk teaching. All the great masters in the world have practiced this of keeping prana, life force in the body, and bringing it upwards.
Absolutely. So this biological process of letting your old form die and rebirthing into your new form occurs at the time of death. But the best part is that you can replicate this death while still being alive, facilitating your own spiritual death and rebirth over and over again. And that is what we guide people in doing every single month in their sacred secretion, is allowing the old lower state of consciousness, trauma self version of you to die and rebirthing yourself into your higher self. Because in order for your higher self to be embodied, and it literally is like a soul retrieval. At the moment of trauma, you lose connection to that aspect of your soul. So your higher self is now disconnected from where you felt the impact of that trauma. Pain in your body, story gets stored away in the mind. And in order to rebirth yourself into your higher self, reclaiming your higher self, that is a retrieval of your soul. So you are restoring connection with your soul. But in order to do so, your soul cannot come home to your body with 4,000 to 5,000 horses standing on it, with the structure deteriorated and weak and no life force energy. We're running on empty because
Well, there's a lot of becauses.
there's a lot of becauses.
It ranges everywhere from our lack of mobility, from the fact that we don't move and we don't exercise enough, to the poor diets that we have, to the jobs that we have sitting in one space, or how many times we spend just sitting sedimentary. It's this entire sedimentary lifestyle that has led the way to us not having.
Which contributes to the compounding of the traumas or the stuck energies in the fascia. They go hand in hand. So what happens when you begin rebirthing yourself is those stuck energies that are stored in your fascia, that are however many horses, depending on the size of it, that area that you reclaim by healing that trauma, you let that trauma self die, higher self comes home, but the fascia becomes more liquid and fluid. And that is one of the beautiful things about, that's why we call ourselves Ascension preppers, about this daily practice, because over time you get to see your fascia becoming more flexible and fluid, returning to its original state, which is fluidity, elasticity, not this stuck, restricted, living in a straitjacket, calling it living, because it's not.
Well,
We've tricked ourselves, and our ego says, oh yeah, I can see, I can feel, I can hear, I can taste, I can smell, but when we're living from our trauma self, that's the ego.
but how can we even say that? Yeah, let's take something like pleasure. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we are dopamine addicts. We are. Let's be honest. We avoid pain and discomfort at all costs. This is why social media is so popular today, because we are dopamine addicts.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll sit there and just scroll, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit. We've become even more dopamine addicts. How can we really experience pleasure when, and again, it's not our say so, science says so, that we see with less than 5% of the lights in the spectrum of light, we see less than 5%. We hear
Exactly.
less than 5%. We smell less than 5%. We taste less than 5%. So how can we truly feel pleasure and think that, oh, this is amazing? It's using less than 5% of our senses.
I know.
And that the 5% that we're using has been so blocked up by our traumas and our triggers and our kunda buffer that we don't even know what percentage of it we're feeling, and we're calling it pleasure and calling it love and calling it life.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't even understand what percentage of it that we're using.
Well, it's no different than the ego trauma self. Trigger disclaimer there for ego. Ego is just the trauma self.
That's all it is.
It's just
Yeah,
the lower
that's all it
version that is here to protect you from your higher self, because all those traumas have disconnected you from your higher self. So with that out of the way, the trauma self literally says, yes, I can feel. Yes, I'm awake. My eyes are open. And we believe that trauma self voice because we've never known or been introduced to or met our higher self voice. So we trick and fool our own selves just because we've never met the higher self voice. So trauma self voice says, I'm feeling, I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm alive. So I am. I'm feeling pleasure in my unconscious sex. I'm feeling that. And we're so, as a society, we are so afraid to let go of that minute little bit of pleasure because it's all we know. So afraid that there might not be something better on the other side. But if we're only turned on, if our human body and all of its capacities let's say the whole human body is only turned on to 5%.
What are we missing?
We're only using 10% of our brain.
Less than that. It's
Less,
actually
I know.
way less than
well, if you Google it now, they like to make sure that
It's
no,
way less
people's
than that.
brains are expanding.
How can it be? Which is a
Exactly.
conversation that we can always have. How can the human brain be expanded when we're using less and less of our brain power with these smart devices? We can't even
Absolutely.
remember two people's phone number. We can't even follow directions. We're being able. How many people can actually open up a paper map and read a map anymore? We have to ask Google or ask Alexa or Siri every single thing. So we're losing. We are no longer writing. So our hand, brain tied together is not working.
Mhm.
We are no longer reading and trying to really fulfill our brain with information and make sense of it. We're just depending on technology to do everything for us. So how can our brain be increasing? Now let me finish that thought and then you can continue. Again, science, neuroscience tells us that our midbrain, and for those of you who don't know, the brain is shoved into three pieces: the frontal lobe, the back lobe, which is the animal brain, and then the middle brain. When we do things that are uncomfortable for us to do, neuroscience tells us that we actually grow the middle brain. So our brain grows when we are doing things that are not within our comfort zone. So how can they tell us that our brain is growing when we keep only doing things for pleasure and not doing things out of our comfort zone?
Absolutely. That's that whole programming: avoid pain, seek pleasure, because pain is bad and wrong. But it all comes back to, and you're going to hear me say this over and over again, no rites of passages. So we're afraid of pain because in a rite of passage, we would have been taught what to do with pain, that pain is just energy. If you were to go back and reflect on, if I had no recollection, no definition of what pain is, if my parents never came along and said, honey, be careful, don't do that, that's going to hurt, oh, ouch, that's painful, would you even know what pain is? Or would you just know that, oh, that's an interesting sensation?
Well, the brain has no pain receptors.
Of course it doesn't. I
So
know.
if the brain has no pain receptors, where's the pain?
Body has pain receptors. And
it's our nerve endings.
Mechanoreceptors that measure heat, temperature. We have so many different receptors that measure stimuli. But if we're living under so much pressure and we're not able to fully receive everything we are perceiving because our senses are so limited, again, it's like tunnel vision for our sight, tunnel vision for our smelling, tunnel vision for tasting. We can only see what fits inside this 5% tunnel when there's so much more beyond that. But we're so afraid of letting go of the old in order to receive what's on the other side, coming back to and out of that comfort zone. People love to stay in comfort. It's just society, settle for status quo. So on this journey, you can't really settle for status quo because you're settling for your trauma self, your lower state of consciousness, for pain, addictions, false dopamine highs, suppressed emotions. Why would you want to settle for that?
Because it's comfortable.
It's comfortable. And that's where the rite of passage would have shared with you how to step outside your comfort zone.
We wrote about it in the book, didn't we? How the indigenous people,
absolutely,
and they still do it in certain tribes, not a lot of tribes, but in the Amazon, there's still tribes that practice this rite of passage. When a child, a boy child especially, gets to that age, about 11, 12, they literally they prep him. The elders of the village prep him, and then on his night of initiation, they take his hand and they stick it into this basket, this glove, and they tie it up. This weaved basket, and inside of it is filled with bullet ants. And one single bullet ant has the potential of actually putting you into a coma. So imagine that the strength that this child has to have to sit there as these bullet ants are biting him all over his arms, and he cannot pull it out.
That's stepping outside your comfort zone. For girls, what they would do, and I'm not sure if they still do it, but one of the tribes would actually, on the girl's very first menstruation, carry her out into the middle of the ocean in the middle of the night when it's dark, drop her off, canoe back to land, and wait for her to swim back without fear that any sharks are going to smell her blood
And
and attack her. So every ancient culture had rites of passages that helped you remember how to conquer fear. Because fear is not real, but fear is what holds us back from stepping outside our comfort zone. And true living does not occur until you step outside your comfort zone.
And if you understand the definition of fear, it says it right in it. False experiences
Appearing real. The other one is failure to experience the actual reality. So if you are here, either live or watching the replay of this live, if you have a copy of Somatophobia, just remember that you have remembered or that you have volunteered to be here during this time, during this timeline split, during this planetary and collective ascension into higher consciousness, ascension into your higher self, into a higher dimension. That ascension requires a descent into your body. And it is also the meeting, it's the descent of your higher self into your body, because the sole purpose of somatophobia, the sole purpose of all of our ceremonies, the body-mind synchronization foundational framework for the daily practice, the sole purpose is to embody your higher self. Because if your higher self is not embodied, your trauma self is running the show from your head. So you're not able to turn on all of your additional senses and their full capacities.
And having said that, if you're doing any kind of healing, if you're embarking on a healing journey, if you're not addressing the body, that is what this whole book is written about. It's what our teachings are about. It's what we remembered. It's what we're sharing with people.
What has catapulted us the quickest on our healing
if you're
journey.
not addressing the body during your healing,
What
then
are you
you
healing?
are not healing.
How can you heal from the trauma self state? You can't change something from the same state of consciousness in which it was created.
You're not the first doctor. It's not as though you're the first one to go, oh, guess what? All trauma is starting to body. There are beautiful books. There's at least a dozen of them out there.
Absolutely.
One of our favorites is Body Keeps the
Body
Score.
keeps the score.
A lot of these doctors, these neurodoctors have talked about all trauma is stored in the body. So if you're not healing in the body,
if you're not feeling it, you're not healing it. So if you're here, if you have a copy of Somatophobia, remember you volunteered to be here during this time. So it's not like, oh, why am I here during this time where it's so much pressure and and it feels intense and painful and overwhelming. Remember, you signed up for this. Your soul said, I am going to reincarnate right here, right now, during this time for a reason, coming back full circle. Sole purpose is to expand, to evolve, to rise into our higher consciousness. So during this time that you are here incarnated in this earthly realm, you are going to experience the old form of Mother Earth dying. All of the structures that have been in place for the last few thousand years are also going to come crumbling down. As Mother Earth continues to receive vibrational frequencies from the solar flares and all the solar storms, as I said, all life forms will be impacted. These high vibrational frequencies are filtered through your energetic bodies first, modulating the downstepping of frequencies before they come in contact with your pain body and your physical body. Because if all of these high frequency energies were to come into direct contact with your physical body first, they would be so intense that they would blow your energetic circuits or your nervous system.
And that is what we're heading to.
Absolutely. And as this pressure builds inside of you, that's why you may feel like you're a pot and emotions are just cooking, waiting to explode. And that's where a lot of people I have been seeing online, a lot of people are having skin eruptions and rashes, and you have scratches, you get itchy. I have different things show up on my skin as well. Our little guru here sleeping behind us, he's got skin eruptions because this pressure is building up inside of the physical body. So it has to explode one way, shape, form, or another. And we talk about this all the time, and maybe next week live, just checking in on the time, we can dive deeper into what really does a DNA activation or upgrade look like? What does it feel like? Because scientists claim that we're only using how much of our DNA? That 98% of it is junk.
Mhm.
So why would 98% of our DNA be junk? We have DNA for a reason, do we not? So during this ascension process, during this metamorphosis, a lot of dormant DNA is going to be activated. And this is actually what triggers your metamorphosis. The instructions to return to your original form, this new form that you're rebirthing yourself into, isn't new. It's your original form. The current form of the trauma self and the pain body, it's what's covering up our original form, or as I call it, our original blueprint. So as latent and dormant DNA gets activated and turned on, a lot of the old form is going to explode in pain or symptoms, or it's just going to deteriorate, fall away. Your skin peels all the time. So the body is going to undergo a lot of different processes that may evoke fear. The
But-
ego is going to want to be like, oh, what's wrong with me? Oh my God, I have something. And because we're so programmed to, I need to go get a prescription drug for this bacterial infection, for this fungal infection, for this skin eruption. I need to go get something for it instead of remembering this is all part of this metamorphosis that we are all experiencing. So
But it's not just our bodies. We are also going through, there's pressure on everything associated, including your relationships.
oh,
So your
absolutely, micro,
relationships are
macro,
also going to be under this pressure.
absolutely. So finalizing up, eventually your body and mind and your relationship will reach a point where it can no longer handle the incoming energies at their current form. A metamorphosis is imperative, otherwise you will not be able to survive. And humanity as a whole is being invited to change in order to survive Mother Earth's metamorphosis from her old form to her new form, or new Earth, which is really just original Earth. Because again, we are returning to our original form, nothing new. It's who we were before all these traumas and wounds.
Now, we talked about, you had thrown in sacred secretion, and not everybody who's watching us knows. Did we ever do a live on sacred secretion?
We did book readings on the sacred
But
secretion.
we never did a live on sacred secretion.
Not deep.
All right. So, do we want to do that sometime in the future?
Yes, of course, we can do that sometime.
So
in the
that we
future.
can, for folks, that you can understand the information is coming out. It's been buried, it's been hidden, but it's slowly starting to come out. And with any new information coming out, because people haven't remembered in so long, because this was not something that was taught to the public, there's a lot of misinformation out there about what it is and how to awaken it and what do you have to do for it. Again, you can find a lot of this stuff on our website at soulwarriorsretreat.com.
Or drshelleyprasad.com at the bottom of the video here.
There is a lot of it, but we will be happy to have a conversation about it as well and explain what we do and why we do our sacred secretion and how we track it and what we do for drawing it. Because again, there's a lot of, and we'll get into details of it, there's a lot of people out there who...
There's a lot of information that can be overwhelming and confusing because you don't know who to believe, who to trust. Are they embodied? Are they not? Are they healing? Are they not? Are they just regurgitating information? Do they really know? So we will definitely dive into it. And I just want to finish up one final paragraph here because I'm aware we only have a few minutes left. So during this metamorphosis, your consciousness has to expand from the third dimension that we're currently in of pain, war, division, separation, suffering, and fear, to a higher consciousness, the consciousness of your higher self. And that is a frequency of unconditional love, authenticity, joy, compassion, and healing. And that's why, coming back to the magic word you said at the beginning, jump, this quantum jump is a multidimensional jump from a lower frequency or a lower state of consciousness, your lower three chakras, into a higher dimension, a higher frequency, your higher self, or above your diaphragm into your higher four chakras: micro, macro, internal, external. But unfortunately, you've heard us toss the word around a lot, pain body. This jump cannot be made with your pain body. It has to be made with your light body. And the pain body is what creates those thousands of horses compressing your energetic channels through which your life force can flow. So the sole purpose of this work is not just to drop into your body, to awaken your life force and to transmute pain. It's to literally turn on and activate your light body, because your life force energy is the gasoline. It's the fuel for your light body. And we need our light body to make the jump. We can't make the jump with the pain body. It literally is like concrete blocks chained around our ankles, holding us down. How can you jump 5 feet in the air with concrete blocks holding you down? I know I couldn't. So that is the jump that we're currently undergoing. And we have to shed our pain body. We have to let our old trauma self die to activate our light body and to embody our higher self. Anything else to share, my love? So with that being said, thank you all for joining us.
Folks.
If you have any questions about this journey, what it looks like, what is a daily practice, where do you begin, reach out. Message us on our websites, grab a copy of Somatophobia. This Sunday, we have our next ceremonial book reading. It's from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
And we're doing that because a lot of the folks from Europe can't make our evening book reading that we do once a month, which will be on January 31st at our normal time.
From 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Both of our book readings this month will be about the mother wound, which is the greatest wound of life. It is the deepest wound, and it is the root of all other wounds.
And you are welcome to join both of the book readings.
They're free.
They're free.
As always, they're sacred cannabis imbibing rituals, they're sound healing concerts, they're guided somatic journeys into your body, and they are vibrational transmissions of truth to help awaken you to your higher consciousness. And then for all the sisters out there, I have a womb kriya ceremony on Saturday. If you desire to meet womb kriyas in sacred ceremony with cannabis, 10 a.m. Eastern, and your first ceremony is free, as always.
And the reason we do all of these frees, folks, is that so that you can experience what we're talking about instead of us just talking about it.
Words don't do it justice. Just like you got to feel it to heal it, you have to feel it to truly experience it. So that's why it's our gift to you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you for joining us live, and we look forward to seeing you next week. If you have any questions about DNA, upgrades, and activations,
feel free to reach out.
Send them our way.
Thank you, folks.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you for taking the time.